What's going on, guys? We had a nice little trade today that I wanted to recap. It was on BMNR. Really, a lot of this was based off of like Ethereum slash ETHA. And I was watching this little pullback here. Similar situation, guys, where we had a divergence in volume after a major breakout. And obviously, this is a little reflective of a parabolic top, right? Where we had one breakaway gap, two breakaway, three, four, five gaps in a row, and we really extended away from the 9 EMA and the 20. But I wanted to see how this would pull back, and really this pulled back in a really healthy mannerism. This pulled back, as I said, with a divergence, pulled right back down into the 9 EMA, and I wanted to see. Obviously, I took some over the weekend. I took two or three contracts over the weekend just to see if we can get some kind of move on Ethereum, Bitcoin, just crypto in general. Over the weekend, it didn't work. But then this morning, I saw us pull down into the 9 EMA, and I saw a buyer right off of the 9 EMA, right? Kind of just off of the open today as we sold down right around here, right? We saw high volume, and it didn't go much lower. And then the following candle kind of had a wick underneath, and then it closed right where the previous, or it opened right where the previous close was. Wick down, closed back above, right? And then we started to slowly move up. So 9 EMA buyer was there. I figured an opportunity was on BMNR. Very similar action, right, where we were looking for the pullback down underneath. And I did mention this on the weekly scan, right? I said even if the weekend swing didn't work, I was still interested in this chart on how it looked right around that 51.43. So if we got closer to that, I was either going to add into the weekend lotto or just start a new position. I ended up starting a new position because I was down like 42%. But yeah, we trickled down a little bit closer to that 51.43, which still looks really healthy, guys. I mean, this does not look bad at all. This looks like probably one of the healthier charts, in my opinion, from the consolidation to the breakout to the harmonic pullback. Just a very harmonic chart, right? A very healthy chart, as I said. So was still interested in this name. Unfortunately, didn't get the huge move that I was looking for. You guys saw they went to like a peak of 38%. I trimmed most of it, and really the targets kind of switched, right? I was looking for a move to 71.81, and instead had to change my targets around a little bit and just go to that bear gap, excuse me, right around 57.81, right? So got a nice little entry. I believe it was right here once we reclaimed Friday's low, right? So right around here, like I said, confluence with the 9 EMA buyer on ETHA slash Ethereum. This caught a bottom with these tweezers right here. We pushed above 54.10, and then we based and pulled back. Usually my entries, I would prefer something like this. And you guys should know this, right? When I talk about structure, this is more structure, right? Where we have a clear higher low that's defined rather than just a single bar pullback, right? And now I'm sure if we look at this on like a 1 minute, it does give a little bit more structure there, right? It looks a little bit different than it does on the 15 where it's just a single tap. But I'm not going to go trade on a 1 minute. You'll get faked out more often than not. So, I just took it on that 15-minute pullback. It held. Right, candle close. I took my entry right around here, assuming that the candle will close, and thankfully I got that. And then was able to trade this all the way up, right? I was targeting two main spots, right? We should kind of understand NWOGs by now. So NWOG was here, right? So from the close, technically, right there to like right here, and this is the area I was targeting. So we got a nice breakout into that spot initially. It pulled back. I didn't close, right? I took profits into the strength right around 35, 38%. I took some at 20% as well. This name was a little. I said it. It's a little spiky, a little sporadic. The premiums were moving very weird today across the board. So just definitely took profits into this name. Right away, right as soon as we hit 20, 38, and then I held just to see if we could hold the NWOG at 55.67. We pushed up again, and I thought with this new high that we would get a big premium spike, and we didn't, right? It just hovered right around 38%, 36% again. So I trimmed down to runners, and then I held, and then I got stopped out right around here on that pullback, and then obviously it made a new high, and I checked back on those premiums as well, and they didn't do anything. They still hovered right around 38, 36%. And then ultimately it sold at the end of the day, right? And this was kind of what I was looking at. If this was to break out through this NWOG range, like kind of right around here, and let's say that this got a nice little pop, just to draw this out, and then it based right here at the NWOG, I was actually going to take a small pivot onto MSTR or coin, right? That coincided really nicely with this 367 spot, which I mentioned in the chat. And it didn't break out, right? You guys can clearly see 1 tap, 2 tap, 3 tap, 4 tap, 5 tap, 6 tap. It started to get higher lows. Spread on the candles was getting tighter without a real break and closure above 367. Finally, right, open, wick above, and then it closed under, and then it started to trickle down. So MSTR never gave me the look that I was looking for. And honestly, this chart's starting to look a little bearish now. I think that was the opportunity right there against this progression gap here, right? So we always talk about internal, external structure, right? So the external structure is down here at 358, which is what the low was from today. I had an opportunity to break back into the internal range, right back above 367, which was this little low, as you guys can see here. It was the progression gap here. So there was a nice little internal structure where we could have cracked above, right, something like this, based and then ripped, kind of similar to this draw that I had, or drawing that I had here, and we could have pushed up into 380s. Unfortunately, this is just looking like it's rejecting against that level there. No harmonic break, as you guys saw in the 15. Ton of touches of that level, no breakout through that. So clear sellers there. MSTR actually might be a short side focus now. It's not top of the list, so size wouldn't garner too much size on this, but just taking a quick glance at this, this has an opportunity to then trade down into 350. And then also, I mean, just naturally looking at this this previous lower high here, I mean, this I don't think that's a lower high. I mean, clear structure change. So obviously this ended up being a lower high, and then we broke out, and then higher highs, higher lows. Really just a consolidation in this range here. So this is a big pivot spot. But naturally, I would think it comes back down and retests 343 to 350. So, you know, if we break under 358 closer to the end of the week, I do think 350 puts could be on watch. I am kind of watching 350 puts. Like I said, it wouldn't garner too much size, maybe 5 to 10 contracts max. And this would pay really well if we got closer to Friday and we saw a sell-off, right? So kind of just watching how this trades around 358.33. If it breaks under 358.33, you guys should know the drill. Just kind of looking for a break under, retest, and then a move down. You know, not the craziest move. It's only a 2% move. So, you know, just maybe a little bit of icing on the cake. Nothing super filling. So we'll see how that one ends up looking. Kind of looking forward now, you guys saw a lot of my trades have been doing pretty good lately. Just kind of selecting names a little bit better. You guys know, right? UNH was obviously a big one. I've talked about this time and time again, just staying super patient here. Whether this ends up pulling back down and retesting 282, maybe this bull gap here at 272, which was that the news catalyst that we got from the 13Fs with Warren Buffett, Druckenmiller, etc. You know, or you know, Tire at 282, as I just said. Or if this keeps trickling up, right? If this keeps going up and we get the SOS LPS a little bit higher to 335, this is still one of my top focuses. I think it should remain on the top of your guys' focus list as well. Just needs a little bit of time to cool off, right? You don't want to be chasing premiums like that or big moves like that. Like I said, it was a 12% move. We got our share ads in this broad area down here, right? So sitting about 12% currently on shares. So that's really nice. And I'm just letting those do their thing. Not really in a rush. Stop loss was obviously below 248.88. I think that's pretty simple. And we're looking, like I said, for a move all the way back up to 580s. So that should take some time. I don't have rush on that. That's in my Roth account. This name is also interesting. I started shares on this one as well. Really simple, in my opinion. If we take a look, right, this was that previous low where I figured we'd get an accumulation underneath this. I don't think this is a redistribution. I think the redistribution was here. Obviously, we take a look at this. This has been trading for, you know, in this range for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, basically a year around these lows with some of our highest volume coming here at the lows without a new low being made. I think that this was the sweep candle, right, back in April, along with the rest of the broader market. That's why I've been a little bit more comfortable taking this position and kind of eyeing Intel a little bit more. I think the low's already been set for this. But if we take a look, right, on the weekly, this was our last major low, right around 24.59, 24.50. We've had a couple breaks above, obviously, but they've pulled back down, right? This is looking a lot like a Wyckoff accumulation chart. I've talked about this time and time again. This is very similar to a lot of the 2022, 2023 accumulations that we traded with Coin, Roblox. There were so many, guys. Hood was a similar one. SE. Shop, right? Shop obviously had that big gap that we could trade it down into, but this is looking really clean, where I would be looking for a break back above 24.59. If we can get that move above 24.59, I think this is pretty similar to a creek jump, where we can then base everything off of 24.59 and then look for a move, whether that's up into the highs around 27, right, which is right around here. If I can find the J button, right around here. Or I think this could go even higher up into this 29 gap that we've been hawking for quite some time, right? 29 is still nice, and yeah, as I said, it hasn't been touched. It got pretty close back here, 27.41. But this gap is still untapped. Chart looks really good though. After hours, if you guys didn't see, got to move up into that 24.59. It actually hit just around 25, and in the overnight session, it's pulling back down to base 24.59. So if we can see this base, I think this is set up really nicely for somewhat of a creek jump or an SOS, right? And then if it can hold here, I think there's an option for this to take some 27 calls, maybe for September, October, and then look for a continuation up into 27 and then 29. I thought the best way to approach this though would be shares. So sitting around like 5-6% on shares as of right now. That's obviously a nice gain as well. But once again, in my Roth, I don't plan on touching this till about 29 to 30. Once we reach these old lows back here and fill that gap, I'll likely trim at that point, because that would be what is it? Average is right around what, 20, 23, 24. That would be 22, 23% moves. So that would not be bad to be taking some profits on that. Obviously, that would have a lot more room to go. Still room to 37, room to 41/43, and then I still think we can revisit the 50 highs. But we'll see what ends up happening as we reach 29.05 and 29.73. I apologize. But yeah, setting up some options trade on that one as well. And then for some more actionable names, I've been talking a lot about Palantir with this rounding top. I still expect you guys, if we simply inverse this, we would expect sellers to then defend, or in this case, it would be buyers, but for the inverse sake, this would be sellers defending this. We would expect some kind of pullback or a higher low. Doesn't have to be that deep either, right? Something like this would be perfect. But if we can get the opportunity there, that's probably the best one. I would want something more structural, right? I just talked about structure. If we go back to SPY really quickly on the 15, right? You guys should know what a higher low looks like. I typed in the wrong thing. My keyboard's not lighting up, so I apologize. Or was it SPY? Or no, it was BMNR. Sorry. Something like this, right, where we push up, we got a lower high. If I inverse this again, right, higher low, you guys should know how it looks at this point. But looking at Palantir, we want that to happen on the daily, right, a clear pivot, same as we saw here. So we want to see a bounce and it push up from, bar by bar perspective. So one more daily bar, 2 daily bars, 3 daily bars, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 2, who knows. But some kind of bounce off of this that goes higher, exhausts, doesn't get back to these highs up here. And I think that's probably the best entry. And then from there, a break under is 171.81 is what you'd want to see, and then a retest of that, and that's our second opportunity to add into the contracts that we should currently have. I took an entry today. Like I said, not much size on this one because it wasn't a structural test, but it did give us an intraday test where it pushed up, touched the bear gap at 177.17, which lined up really nicely with the 90 EMA on the daily, right? So that little green line there. We did see a rejection off of that. Still need to see a second piece of this where it breaks underneath 171 and then retests, right? And if we can retest that, I still think that this comes down very, very nicely into this 160 pocket, which would be the gap. Probably get another bounce off of that. If I'm not, if I'm being completely honest, we'll probably get another bounce off of that, and then we want to look for a flush lower into that 154, 158 gap. And yeah, nice little short report was put out today as well from Citron. I'm not usually a big fan of those. I usually like to fade those, to be honest. So if it's a short report, I usually look for longs. I did this on Roblox a while back with Citron, putting out their short report, but it's a little bit different. I have somewhat of a bias on this one, so I'm kind of siding with the bad guys on this one. But yeah, this chart still looks really good. Just need a couple extra pieces to this one. And then lastly, right, Tesla. Still looks good. This is an interesting one, right? Where if we end up kind of pulling everything, we're kind of trading within different progression gaps here, right? So, I mean, we have this little red line, which was the top of our progression gap, right, where we gapped down. We pushed up, we got a lower high within it, we pulled back down, kind of swept underneath that low, broke out above the progression gap, and we have an opportunity here to hold this little flag, if you will, right? Some kind of a flag here on divergence to hold 332.56. If we can pop off of that, right, I'd be expecting a move up into this, like, these highs. Honestly, 350 would be what I was targeting. Very interesting chart here. I just want to see if it can hold 332. But higher time frames, right? This is getting very, very, very tight. And I have Taylor Lamb, T Lamb 91, in a separate chat with me as well, and he's been posting a lot of like TSLL flow, which usually precedes big moves, right? A lot of these big funds will trade the ETFs or the inverse ETFs or leverage ETFs first before the actual underlying itself, because these have larger payouts, infinite liquidity as well. So I mean, usually we'll see those flow or big orders via dark pool first. So this is one of those names, man, where I think that we could get a pretty big move on Tesla. It just needs a little bit more time, in my opinion. So monthly, daily, weekly, all look prime for a big move. It just depends on the level, right? And this looks like the level, in my opinion, 332.56. So kind of just watching, honestly, a downtrend break right here. So something like this, if we can get above that downtrend while holding 332, maybe give us a strong weekly close. I think we can trade this on continuation up into 350. And then obviously, if it can break 350, you'd be looking for a move up into these highs here, right around 357, and then potentially a move up into the 367, 370. So I'm watching 350 calls, 370 calls. I just want to be able to see this break that downtrend, hold 332.56, and I do think there's a nice move on the way. I don't really want to trade this short, so just keep that in mind. Really just looking at this from a long side. And then last but not least, just covering the IWM position that I have. Still looks healthy, right? I think a lot of it comes down to Jackson Hole on Friday. With obviously it's a 3-day event, but first day usually Powell sets the tone, right, for the weekend. We've seen the last 3 Jackson Holes, IWM's had pretty outsized moves to the upside. Obviously there was that one outlier back in 2022 where the market sold about like 3 or 4%. It could happen. I'm not going to put that by, but a lot of this looks like it is going to be around September rate cuts, and a lot of stuff is front running that. So we could see a very dovish J. Powell, kind of give hints at the rate cuts. We go into the September rate cut during FOMC. We cut rates. It could be a sell the news event. Maybe they don't cut. Maybe they end up just kind of continuing a pause because inflation and jobs numbers are still looking a little iffy. They're in between a rock and a hard place. So there's no real guarantee despite what the data says. But I still like the front run idea. And really, risk is still against this 226.64. And this chart looks good, man, with the breakout and then the pullback, and it's still holding 226.64. I think the size that I currently have is fine to be able to trade this to the upside. It would pay really well. I don't see a reason to get much heavier on this. So yeah, still looking for 231.22. Did sell a little bit in after hours, unfortunately. I think in the overnight session, it pulled back down to the lows of today, which is fine. It's still kind of holding against that risk at 226.64, but did lose a little bit of the progress that was made today. So keep that in mind. Yeah, just kind of watching this. But really just Palantir, UNH, Intel are probably the more actionable focuses and the ones that will garner the most size. Still looking at IWM, MSTR, kind of just on the back end, and then Tesla on the back end as well. But that's pretty much all I got, guys. Just pretty slow start to the week. We should expect that with Monday. You guys can just see it in the price action itself. Like today, we just pretty much barcoded all day. I think a lot of this is just waiting for that event on Friday with Jackson Hole. And just a quick heads up, if you guys didn't see in the chat, I will not be here on Thursday. I'm going to be taking a road trip out to California, so I'll be trading on Friday, but Thursday I won't be at the desk. I'll be on the road. So just keep that in mind. If I'm not saying too much or not posting any positions, it's because I'm driving. But Friday I should be good to go. Hopefully nothing super crazy happens on Friday because I will be managing my positions through my phone, but I'll do my best to keep you guys updated
And yeah, that's really all I got. Hopefully this was a nice thorough breakdown. Hopefully it clarifies current positions. Still with SPY, guys, you know, I shouldn't have to say anything, but still short. Obviously with my January, still plenty of time on those. Just still waiting for a move down to 613, and ideally that happens here soon. Broad risk was, you know, 640 to 650. Hopefully this doesn't break 650. If it does, I likely will be stopping out of those. But as of right now, still not too worried about it. Still have the 8 contracts, but not going to add into that until we break 613. I guess I could just touch on it. Meta, too, looks pretty bad. Not going to lie. I've talked about this, too, with the Biclimax upthrust, and then this whole range, very similar to SPY, being potential UTAD. Daily structure is looking topped, right? So we just still need to see a move underneath 740.91. If it can break under 740.91, I do think there's an actionable trade to the downside down into 695, and then that could start the broader downtrend for a move all the way back down into 550. So Meta, if you guys just want to have this on watch for future reference, still absolutely love the look on this one. Just like I said, these UTADs take some time, and they vary, you know, underlying to each underlying, right? They're always different with how long they can last, and this looks like it is topped, but still just need to see a move under 740.91. And then this will start making its way onto my focus list for each week moving forward, right? As long as structure holds and the chart still looks good. But yeah, just for future reference, this is likely going to make its way to the top of my list if it breaks 740.91. I think that's it though. Hopefully everyone has a good day. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, bright and early. I'm excited. I feel like things are finally starting to click a little bit again. And yeah, that's really it. So UNH, Intel, Palantir, top 3, back end, MSTR, Tesla, right, and IWM, still kind of just things that I'm watching. Potential new positions on MSTR or Tesla. We'll see if those end up making their way into the positions. So that's going to be it, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow.